My mom was in a car accident, and I desperately needed money. I called my husband, Ethan, dozens of times, but he didn't answer. After waiting all night, he finally sent a message. Busy, I'll talk later. Then there was no reply. I signed Mom's critical condition notice outside the operating room. 3 days later, I received $10,000 from him. Studio budget is tight, this is all I have for now. I sent him a screenshot of his assistant, Chelsea's, Moments post. A small assistant got $1 million raise. Is this what you call studio budget issues? I asked him, devastated. Ethan slapped me in a fit of anger. Can't you stop being so calculative all the time? Do you think Chelsea is as shameless as you? She's threatening to quit to avoid you misunderstanding. It was just a promotion party for the employees. Did you have to call dozens of times to check on me? Yes, it wasn't necessary. It won't be necessary ever again. 1. Mom heard that Ethan and I weren't doing well lately and came to see me. I didn't expect her to have an accident on the way. When I got to the hospital, she was already in the operating room, being prepped for surgery. The doctor said that if we had the budget, we could consider using experimental medicine, but it was quite expensive. I didn't hesitate. I begged the doctor to use the experimental medicine, no matter the cost. It was only when I went to pay that I realized I didn't have enough money. All the money at home had been with Ethan these past years, and I didn't have any on hand. So, I signed the critical condition notice with trembling hands while calling Ethan. Dozens of calls went unanswered. Finally, I called one of his colleagues and got through to him. Ethan's assistant, Chelsea, answered the phone. Ashley, Mr. Ethan said to tell you to come back later, no matter what. My mom is in the hospital, something happened, and I need money. Please tell Ethan. I could hear the lively laughter on the other end of the phone. Desperate for money, I didn't want to know what was happening over there. I could only shout Ethan's name loudly into the phone. After a while, I finally heard his voice. Busy, I'll talk later. 2. Ethan hung up the phone immediately. I waited outside the operating room all night, but I didn't receive any news from Ethan. I borrowed from relatives and friends, but because of the urgency, I couldn't raise enough. In the end, Mom didn't get the experimental medicine. She passed away after the rescue failed. Her last wish was for Ethan and me to be happy, and not to blame him because of this. I promised her and let her leave in peace. 3. At dawn, relatives and friends arrived. Ethan, something happened to Mom. She's at Mercy General Hospital. I sent Ethan the last message while wiping away my tears. But this time, I didn't expect a reply from him. Relatives and friends helped with Mom's funeral arrangements, comforted me, and quietly slipped me money, telling me to accept my fate. Everyone who knew the news came. Someone asked why Ethan wasn't there. I was speechless. Mom always showed off that I married well. Ethan and I were childhood sweethearts. We went to the same university and started the design studio together. She always praised Ethan as her good son-in-law, saying that I was lucky to marry Ethan. But this good son-in-law was nowhere to be found right now. Relatives and friends outwardly helped Ethan explain, saying that he must be busy, which was why he couldn't make it. But secretly, they were all saying that Ethan was heartless, leaving me alone to handle everything. That's right, he was indeed busy. Busy giving his assistant a raise, busy throwing a promotion party. I watched the people from the funeral home take Mom away. Danny, whom I usually got along with at the studio, rushed over. Danny comforted me, telling me to accept my fate, but he hesitated, looking at me. I forced a wry smile and told him to say what was on his mind. He told me that Ethan really couldn't make it today. He got drunk at the promotion party and was now staying at Chelsea's house. 4. Was everyone having fun at the promotion party just now? I didn't even know why I suddenly asked that. Maybe there was still a glimmer of hope for Ethan in my heart. Danny hesitated for a moment before speaking. He said that Mr. Ethan was very generous tonight. Not only did he give Chelsea $1 million bonus, but he also gave each employee an extra $10,000 for this month's salary. Everyone was joking that they were benefiting from Chelsea, saying that Chelsea was the female boss of the studio. Danny's voice got softer and softer as he spoke. I just found it funny. The life-saving money I was begging for wasn't as important as the raise he was giving his employees over there. I understand. Thank you for telling me all this. I unconsciously clenched the death certificate in my hand even tighter. The staff member next to me reminded me that it was time to go. Like a puppet on a string, I followed the staff's instructions and got into the car to go to the funeral home. On the car, I received a photo from Chelsea. Ethan was lying asleep on the bed. The photo was blurry, but I still saw the marks on his shirt and the abnormal flush on his face. Ashley, why don't you come and pick up Mr. Ethan? I'm afraid you'll misunderstand. How considerate of her. I laughed subconsciously. I'm busy tonight. You take care of him. 5. The next day, I went home to pack my suitcase, preparing to send Mom's body back home. Ethan came back. His suit jacket was gone, and his tie was crookedly draped over his shoulder. He reeked of alcohol as soon as he opened his mouth. Make me something to eat, my stomach hurts. He collapsed on the sofa, like a pile of mud. No time. I continued to pack my things. Since the studio size had grown, Ethan often had to go to social events. Hangovers were common. Before, no matter how late it was, I would wait at home for the DRI to send him back. I'd clean him up and feed him something to eat so he wouldn't feel so bad all night. But now, I didn't want to look at him again. He disgusted me. Ethan sat up on the sofa and looked at me. Where are you going with your suitcase? Seeing that I was ignoring him, he walked up to me. Be good, make me something to eat. I want some noodles made by you. Ethan wrapped his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder. He used to coax me like this every time I got angry. Didn't your assistant make you something to eat yesterday? I shook him off. He was covered in alcohol and smelled of other women. It was truly disgusting. Yesterday was Chelsea's raise. How could I trouble a young girl like her to make me something to eat? Oh, right, you said you needed money last night, right? I finally finished packing my suitcase and booked a car on my phone. I also screenshotted Chelsea's Moments post from yesterday and sent it to Ethan. A small assistant got $1 million bonus. I thought she'd be at your beck and call. 6. Ethan's expression darkened. He suddenly slapped me in a fit of anger. Can't you stop being so calculative all the time? Do you think Chelsea is as shameless as you? She's threatening to quit to avoid you misunderstanding. It was just a promotion party for the employees. Did you have to call dozens of times last night? I didn't get angry, instead, I laughed. Yes, it wasn't necessary. I dragged my suitcase and went straight out the door. Ethan yelled at me, telling me not to think about coming back after I left through this door. I had heard this sentence several times. Every time he said this before, I would be scared and tremble. Because Ethan meant what he said. Once, I accidentally looked at his phone. He locked me out. I waited outside all night, apologizing all night. The next day, my voice was hoarse, and I had a high fever before he let me in. It's not that I don't have pride. I was an orphan when I was young. I was adopted by my current parents when I was 7 years old. At that time, I was very introverted, and no children played with me. My parents always thought I went out to play, but I was hiding under the slide in the neighborhood, counting stones by myself. It was Ethan who took me to play. Later, when I was in school, I was bullied by some troublesome female classmates. It was Ethan who protected me. From childhood to adulthood, my inferiority and introversion were healed by Ethan little by little. The only thing I was afraid of was that he would leave me. Ethan's slap just now woke me up. The last expectations and hope for Ethan disappeared after that slap. Ethan wasn't that important of a person either. Maybe he was the light in my life before. But now, nothing is more important than myself. 7. For the next few days, I didn't hear from them. I took Mom's ashes back home for burial and returned after holding a memorial service at home. When I got home, I found the bedroom in a mess. The suitcases had been pulled out, and the clothes in the closet were all piled up in a mess. My jewelry box was on the ground. One corner of the box was broken, and the contents were scattered all over the floor. I opened my phone and saw the messages Ethan had sent a few days ago. And the $10,000 he transferred to me. Studio budget is tight, this is all I have for now. I'm going on a business trip for a few days. I asked you to pack my suitcase in advance. Where are you? Where did you put my sunglasses? Below was a string of question marks, asking why I didn't reply. There were also records of several missed calls. Ethan relied on me to take care of him in his life. For 10 years, I had been almost responsive to Ethan's every need. It was rare for this kind of disconnect to happen, so it was no wonder he was so angry. I thought about it. I must have been on the mountain at home at the time. The signal was bad, so I didn't receive his messages and calls. I squatted down and picked up all the scattered jewelry. In the corner, I saw a copy of the divorce papers. Ethan must have accidentally dropped it while packing. So, he had already thought about getting a divorce. In this matter, we had a rare understanding. When disappointment is accumulated enough, there's no need for two people to continue being tied together. The terms above were very clear, and the property was divided evenly. I signed it directly. I'm back. 10 minutes later, Ethan sent me an address. 8. When I got there, I realized it was a dinner with a client. Ethan asked me, with a look of disdain, why I didn't dress up, and told me that this client was very important today. Because the client came with his wife, he asked me to come too. I was wrong about what happened last time. I was drunk. Just sit and eat obediently later. It was rare for Ethan to apologize first. He was probably afraid that I would cause trouble here, so he apologized so nicely. I nodded in agreement. Not for anything else, I didn't need to fall out with him before I got the divorce certificate. When I went inside, I found that Chelsea was already sitting at the table. Mr. Ethan, I've already ordered for you, the same as before. She stepped forward skillfully to take Ethan's suit jacket that he had just taken off, and the two sat down side by side. I was left behind, finding a seat near them. Because Ethan and I came in together, the people at the table's probing eyes switched back and forth between Chelsea and me. But it was the client who spoke up first and asked me, Ethan, does your studio only hire based on looks? Your designers are all so beautiful. Everyone was silent, waiting for Ethan to introduce me. Mr. Anderson, this is my wife. Ethan introduced me with a forced smile. He looked like he was embarrassed by me, as if I was too shameful to bring out. 9. Mr. Anderson chuckled. I thought Chelsea next to you was your wife. The last time you went on a business trip, didn't you two stay together? Mr. Anderson realized he had misspoken and suddenly stopped, changing the subject to ask me, you look very haggard. Are you feeling unwell? Before I could speak, Ethan answered for me. She's fine. Don't worry about her. I pursed my lips and didn't say anything else. I just thought your wife's complexion was bad. I'm sorry, I was just being nosy. Mr. Anderson apologized while raising a glass to me. Ethan still hadn't noticed something that strangers could see at a glance. I thought we would just gloss over it, but Danny suddenly interjected. Yes, ma'am, the dead can't come back to life. You still need to take care of yourself. The whole room fell silent in an instant. Until Ethan spoke. Who died? It was the day Chelsea got her raise. Your wife's mom passed away, and you sent me to the hospital, Mr. Ethan. Ethan suddenly stood up. That's impossible. How could my wife not tell me about something so big? Ethan picked up his chopsticks again. But his hands were shaking, and the chopsticks fell with a thud. Everyone looked at me with complex expressions. Some were sympathetic, some were shocked, and some were gossiping. Only Ethan didn't dare to look at me. Mr. Anderson, I used to be a designer too. I'm very interested in the project you have. After a long silence, I decided to break the deadlock myself. I gathered my things and walked up to Mr. Anderson. Would it be convenient for me to add your contact information so I can send you my designs to take a look at? During the dinner, I roughly understood why this gathering was happening. It was because Mr. Anderson's previous projects had all been given to Chelsea. But the response was very mediocre, so he wanted to switch to a new designer today. This was an opportunity for me. Mr. Anderson was a little surprised that I would say this, but he still gave me his contact information and comforted me, telling me to let go. I smiled and nodded, said goodbye, and planned to leave. When I passed Chelsea, she suddenly reached out and grabbed me. I'm sorry, I didn't know something so big happened that day. You won't hold it against me, right? Chelsea, in front of me, was wearing a spaghetti strap mini dress, looking playful and sexy. She would look at you pitifully when she spoke. But I'm not Ethan. What if I do hold it against you? Can you give me back my mom's life? Or can you bring my mom back to life? I shook off her hand. I did use force, but I didn't expect her to fall to the ground. Chelsea exclaimed and then started to cry. Ethan, next to me, seemed to suddenly wake up. He quickly helped Chelsea up from the ground. But he ignored Chelsea's sobbing and ran towards me. Ashley, stop right there. I walked very fast, but he still caught up with me. He grabbed my shoulders, making me look at him. But he didn't dare to look me in the eye. You shouldn't have pushed Chelsea just now. She's innocent. I thought Ethan was coming to apologize. I didn't expect him to be standing up for Chelsea. I overestimated him. That's right, I pushed her. What? Do you want to slap me again? From the moment Danny mentioned my mom, I had been barely holding myself together. Everything from that day swept over me again because of Ethan and them. The helplessness and despair I felt outside the operating room made me want to kill the person in front of me. But I still had a glimmer of hope in my heart. I still couldn't help but think of all the things that Ethan and I had been through. That's why I hated myself even more. Why didn't you just say something that day? How could you not tell me about something so big? Ethan seemed to have grabbed a lifeline. He repeatedly asked me why I didn't look for him that day. Was it that I didn't say anything, or that you didn't bother to look? I found all the missed calls and messages I had sent on my phone. He took out his phone in disbelief. He finally saw those dozens of missed calls from a days ago. It was very noisy that day. I thought you were just checking up on me again. I was annoyed, so he let go of me as he said this and squatted down on the ground. Ethan, you're right. You think I'm annoying, then I won't annoy you anymore. You had the divorce papers ready at home a long time ago, didn't you? I've already signed them. I took out the divorce papers and threw them at his feet. This time, he didn't stop me. I left directly in a taxi. I went to the studio. This advertising design studio was founded by Ethan and me. Back then, when we graduated from college, he was planning to take an offer from a foreign trade company. It was I who used my design awards and qualifications to suggest opening our design studio. That's how there's an Ethan, Mr. Ethan, today. I suddenly realized during dinner that this studio originally belonged to me, too. I could completely use the studio's name to take on projects first and then leave later. So, I went straight to the design department. There should still be my old designs in there. The people at the studio had changed several times. Most of the current employees didn't recognize me. They didn't bother with me as I squatted in the corner looking for my old designs. The design department was very lively, discussing their recently concluded trip. No wonder Ethan was packing his suitcase. So, it wasn't a business trip. They went on vacation together. The whole department was discussing Chelsea in addition to their trip. I heard that Chelsea will be in the design department from now on. She's really capable, getting us to go on a team-building trip to Maui. Yeah, we got a raise just because she opened her mouth. Of course, that's because Mr. Ethan likes her. But isn't Mr. Ethan married? Someone asked a question, and the entire design department fell silent in an instant. I looked up and realized it wasn't just because of that sentence. It was also because Ethan came in. Chelsea leaned over. And Ethan, looking very wronged. She hooked one arm around Ethan's clothes, half embracing him. They couldn't see me in the corner, but I could see them. Ethan skillfully walked to Chelsea's seat, put a cushion on it for her, and helped her sit down. So, Ethan had such a gentle side. They probably heard what those people were saying just now, too. Chelsea looked at Ethan with a shy expression. But Ethan just lowered his face and said, Work hours, stop chatting. As Ethan turned to leave, a colleague stopped me in the corner. Hey, are you the new cleaner? Can you throw away this box on my desk for me? Everyone looked at me in the corner, including Ethan. What are you doing here? 5. I pretended not to hear and continued to look for my old designs. This cabinet was left behind by the previous business when we rented the studio. When the studio first started, we had nothing. This cabinet became our important asset, placed in Ethan's office to make the place look presentable. But as the studio grew better and better, this cabinet was naturally phased out. Because there were still some documents in it, it was never thrown away and was left in the corner of the design department. In the cabinet, I not only found my designs but also the registration materials from when Ethan and I started the studio together. The documents had yellowed, reminding me that it had indeed been so long. Ashley, I didn't expect you to come to the studio. Ethan composed himself from his surprised expression and forced a smile as he stepped forward. I called you several times, but you didn't answer. I thought you had gone home. I handed him the documents. If I remember correctly, I own a share of this studio. The signatures on it were from both Ethan and me. Ethan, back then, was just as handsome as he is now. But the current Ethan is more mature, and his temperament is more composed. He's no longer the rash young man who would pick me up when he was happy. Nor is he the person who had only me in his eyes. Don't make a scene here. Let's go home and talk. 6. Ethan walked towards me. Amidst the hushed discussions of my colleagues, Ethan led me out of the design department. When I left, I saw Chelsea staring at me with a pout. Her anger and unwillingness were written all over her face. I just found it funny. What did she have to be angry about? Shouldn't I be the one who was angry and unwilling? My mom's departure left a hole in my heart. Even though everything hadn't changed much, it made my whole world gray. I didn't have the energy to bother with her right now. Ethan took me to his office. I still have something to deal with. Wait for me for a while, and we'll go home together later. Ignoring my cold face, he coaxed me, asking me to wait for him in his office. Okay. I agreed with him. I didn't want to cause a scene at the studio either. It was too undignified. I waited in his office, quietly looking at my old designs. 7. His office used to be decorated by me. But now, there was no trace of the past. Instead, I could see many things that Chelsea had left behind. The display on the desk was a photo of the two of them, and the pillow on his chair even had Chelsea's name on it. No wonder the people in their department were so surprised when I appeared just now. I called Danny and asked if any suitable projects could be given to me recently. He hesitated for a long time before saying that the good projects at the studio recently had all been given to Chelsea. Like Mr. Anderson's project just now. But Chelsea wasn't capable, and clients often complained about her. Isn't she an assistant? How can she take on projects alone? Because Mr. Ethan wants to nurture her. So, many projects are put under her name, but Mr. Ethan is helping her clean up the mess. No wonder Chelsea was assigned to the design department. No wonder Ethan was so busy before, still revising designs late into the night every day. He was going to great lengths. I waited in his office for a long time, but he still didn't come back. Ethan was very serious when he worked, engrossed and focused. It was also at this moment that I felt that I wasn't blind back then. It wasn't that I misjudged him, it's just that he had changed. 8. I finally made it to quitting time, and I saw Ethan's tired figure come back. Ashley, I'm sorry for making you wait so long. It's okay, I was busy too. Fortunately, I wasn't just waiting for him foolishly in the office. Danny helped me find a few recent projects at the studio for me to familiarize myself with. I don't know if it was just my imagination, but Ethan's attitude had changed. There was a familiar strangeness to it. He hadn't called me Ashley in a long time. We hadn't had a peaceful conversation like this in a long time, either. What do you want to eat? I'll make dinner for you tonight. He started to pack his things. I saw that the divorce papers I gave him at noon were still with him, but he had deliberately ignored them. Having been with Ethan for so long, I had long figured out his routine. Every time we had a fierce argument, he would handle it coldly. If he was in the wrong, he would suddenly come to me after a few days of the Cold War. He would pretend that nothing had happened, care for me, and coax me for a while. I would usually just let it go like that and wouldn't continue arguing with him. But this time was different. Ethan, is there anything you want to say to me? How about I make you some porridge tonight? I saw that you didn't have a good appetite at noon. 9. He chose to avoid and handle it coldly as expected. Ethan reached out to pull me, but I dodged him. I'll wait for you downstairs. Without waiting for me to say anything more, he left in a hurry. Ethan wasn't fighting with me in a Cold War like before. So, he also knew that this time was different. When I went out, I ran into a few colleagues who were leaving work together. They all called me sister-in-law. I Wardley acknowledged them. One of them even came up to me and said that Mr. Ethan had introduced me at the studio just now. He said that we were childhood sweethearts, went to the same university, and started the business together. Her envious gaze made me even more uncomfortable. Ethan, he didn't know that what I cared about wasn't whether the people at the studio knew me, but what he had done. Just like now, I planned to get in the car after going downstairs. But I found Chelsea sitting in the back seat. I don't want to ride in the same car as her. Ethan got out of the car and opened the passenger door for me. The colleagues coming and going all looked in our direction. Ethan said softly, "She sprained her foot. We're just giving her a ride since we're going the same way. Be good, your colleagues are all watching. You wouldn't make things difficult for me, right?" 10. I looked at Ethan with a sneer. He was good at being a boss to this extent. I find it dirty. You can drive her back yourself. Besides, I'm used to taking a taxi. I rarely rode in Ethan's car, usually in either. When I wanted him to give me a ride, he would always say he was busy, preferring to transfer money to me so I could take a taxi. But he could be Chelsea's free driver. I had seen Chelsea sitting in Ethan's passenger seat more than once. The smell of her perfume had long been lingering in this car. Ethan wanted to keep me there and still wanted to say something, but the cars waiting behind were honking like crazy. He could only drive away. He called me a moment later. "Can you wait for me downstairs at the studio? I'll turn around and pick you up." "No need, I've already booked a car." "What's the license plate number?" "I'll pick you up downstairs later." I hung up the phone impatiently. It wasn't the first time I had taken a taxi alone. Why was he pretending to care? I realized that all the things I had been sad and cared about regarding Ethan's actions towards Chelsea now just felt irrelevant. 11. I got home a little earlier than Ethan. At this time, usually, I would have already made dinner and waited for him to come back. And he would either eat quickly after coming back and go straight to the study, or just send me a message telling me that he wouldn't be back tonight. I would always save the dishes, afraid that he would suddenly come back and not have anything to eat. But almost all the time, I would throw the things away untouched. The next day, Ethan came back. He went straight to the kitchen as soon as he came in. The house was very quiet, and I could hear him cooking in the kitchen from the living room. Half an hour later, he came out with a pot of porridge. Chelsea landed a few big projects a few months ago, so that's why we had the promotion party that day. Chelsea has been at the studio for 2 years. She's always been very hardworking, so I transferred her to the design department. I sent her home just now to have her resign and recommend her to other studios. He explained to me while dishing out the porridge, as if he were just chatting idly. There was a response to everything. It all sounded reasonable. But why was he unwilling to answer my phone on the day of the promotion party? Why did he go to Chelsea's house in the end when he could have had the driver send him home that day? Why couldn't he bring up the resignation at the studio? Did he have to wait until he was driving Chelsea home? His words were so fake, I didn't even want to call him out on it. Okay, I understand. 22. Ethan made me egg drop soup. But it was terrible. There were eggshells in it, the rice was undercooked, and it tasted overwhelmingly fishy. I took one bite and didn't eat any more. When Ethan saw that, he tried it himself and spat it out as soon as it touched his tongue. "Ashley, I'm sorry. I'll make you a new one." Just wait a moment, okay? It's fine. I smiled indifferently and handed him the divorce papers again. You prepared these divorce papers, so I just signed them. Let's find a suitable time to go to the town hall and get a divorce. Ethan took the divorce papers. He hurriedly explained that they were a friend's divorce papers, and he was just looking at them for his friend. But the clauses were written very clearly, obviously not his friend's. So, he made up a lot of excuses but couldn't explain it clearly. In the end, he could only be silent. I was wrong, Ashley. I know I was wrong this time. Can't we go back to how we were before? Please? He lowered his head and apologized to me. To be honest, seeing Ethan like this, I still felt a little sad. Our feelings from childhood couldn't be easily erased. Before, every time I saw him coming back with Chelsea, every time I saw the various posts Chelsea made about Ethan, as long as Ethan came back and explained to me that they were just work colleagues, I could be easily appeased. I believed him every time. Because everything Ethan and I had experienced together since we were childhood sweethearts wasn't fake. I was willing to wrong myself, willing to deceive myself, to pretend that there was nothing between them. But this time, I still wanted to deceive myself. But I couldn't. Because of Mom's passing, I realized that I wasn't as strong as I thought I was. 23. The soup in front of me was still steaming. I knew why he had to make me egg drop soup. He had especially learned to make this soup from my mom when he proposed to me. He never cooked. When we got married, he told me that he couldn't bear to see me cooking every day. He vowed that he would learn in the future. But in the past 10 years, he only cooked for me that one time during the proposal, and this time. Do you remember the egg drop soup you made for me back then? It was so delicious. I spoke first. Ethan held the divorce papers in his hand and finally looked up at me. Ethan, I don't have a mom anymore. I held back my tears and looked at him. Do you know what her last words were? When Mom passed away? She told me not to blame you. She told me to be good to you and not to be angry with you because of her passing. He came forward and hugged me. As before, every time I was wronged, he would hug me like this. Ashley, I know I was wrong this time. Just like Mom said, she doesn't want us to separate, right? I promise you, I will protect you in their place from now on, just like when we were kids. I didn't answer him. Ethan, you know best, don't you? As an orphan since I was little, I cherished my parents. When Dad passed away a few years ago, I was seriously ill and barely recovered. Now that Mom has left, I've become an orphan again. There will never be anyone who cares about me and loves me like they did. Ethan, what makes you think you can replace them? 24. I silently got up and went to the kitchen to cook again. Ethan followed me in. He clumsily tried to help, but cut his hand on a knife on the table. The cut was deep, and blood flowed out. At this time, his phone rang, and he asked me to answer it for him. The call was from Danny, who said that Chelsea was unhappy that the client kept rejecting her designs. She had a conflict with the client, and it was causing a scene at the studio. Ethan frowned and looked at me. Although he didn't say a word, I understood his meaning very well. I deftly helped him clean and bandage the wound, and went to the studio with him. Ethan didn't say a word along the way. The atmosphere was extremely tense until he saw Chelsea sitting at the entrance of the studio, crying loudly. Chelsea sobbed and said that they were bullying her. The designs had been revised 3 or 4 times, and they were still not satisfied, and they had just asked her to revise them again. She had especially taken a taxi back to revise the designs, but the client came to her and bullied her. Ethan's expression became increasingly ugly. He ignored the wound on his hand and my obstruction, and went straight down and punched the CLI. And Ethan, who was always polite, would throw a punch without saying a word. 25. The other party was stunned for a moment and then reacted. There were many of them, and they surrounded Ethan and beat him. Chelsea, who was next to him, didn't even wipe away her tears and snot, and screamed and ran out. She had said she sprained her ankle that afternoon, but now she was running faster than a rabbit. Seeing this situation, I calmly called the police first. Then I asked Danny to lead the people from the studio to pull them apart. It was a mess. Seeing Ethan inside being beaten to his knees, I rushed up to help. They saw that I was a woman and told me not to interfere. Seeing that I was still standing in front of Ethan, they kicked me a few times and then let us go. But the scene was chaotic, and I don't know who took the scissors from the table. After a burst of stinging pain, I felt warm liquid overflowing from my head. In the last moment of consciousness, I seemed to see myself as a teenager being blocked in the bathroom. Ethan, at that time, was also standing in front of me like this. So much for him protecting me, he was just helping me get beaten up. Ethan, this is me paying you back. Now we can be even. 26. When I woke up again, I was in the hospital. My head was heavy, and Danny, next to me, saw that I was awake and hurried out to call the nurse. The doctors and nurses checked me again. Fortunately, you're lucky. If it had gone any deeper, it would have damaged the nerves. 10 stitches were sewn. Come back in 3 days for a follow-up appointment to remove the stitches. After the doctor finished explaining, he went out and brought the police in. They said that because Ethan had started it, we were at a disadvantage even if we were injured more seriously. The other party was determined not to mediate. Where's Ethan? Where is he? I still wanted to know if he was safe first. Danny curled his lips and said that he was fine, just some superficial wounds. He was just locked up in the police station, making a fuss about wanting to see me. At this time, the police also spoke. Ms. Ashley, the other party said that if you are willing to apologize, they may consider not pursuing Ethan's responsibility. I sighed and told them that I would go. I went to the police station with a bandage wrapped around my head. Ethan and those clients were sitting in the mediation room. Seeing me come in, Ethan tried to stand up, but was pulled back by the handcuffs on the table. He could only sit there, silently looking at me. 27. I'm sorry, I apologize to you on Ethan's behalf. I bowed, lowered my head, and apologized. The blood on my head stained the bandage red again. If Danny, next to me, hadn't been supporting me, I guess I would have fallen in the next second. Seeing that I was seriously injured, the other party didn't pursue the matter. This matter was considered resolved. Ethan still needed to be locked up inside for a few days, but he would not be held responsible for other things. When leaving, the police gave us 5 minutes of privacy. I originally wanted to refuse, but Ethan begged me to stay. Ethan, with a bruised nose and swollen face, no longer had his previous vigor. We were quiet for a long time. Ethan, isn't it a coincidence that I have 10 stitches on my head? It hurts a lot. These 10 stitches are my way of paying you back for the 10 years of kindness to me. We're even. He looked at me and tried to say something several times. In the end, he still didn't say it. Just before I left, he said the last sorry to me. 28. I went back to the hospital. I stayed in the hospital alone for observation, and went alone for a follow-up appointment to remove the stitches. I moved out of the house that Ethan and I shared. When I was worried about finding a job, fortunately, Mr. Anderson contacted me. Although he didn't give me the entire project, he gave me a part of it and allowed me to work at his company. I returned to my privy estate. For a month, I didn't receive any news from Ethan. I devoted myself to work and successfully delivered the project, receiving a considerable design fee. What I didn't expect was that my designs were very effective. Mr. Anderson directly waved his hand and hired me to work at his company. I also joined the design department. On the day I joined the company, my colleagues had a dinner party to welcome me. A colleague even dug up my previous resume. He said that I was not only from a professional background, but also an outstanding graduate of the school, and had won many design awards. I had 3 Red Dot Design Awards, which everyone in the design circle envied. These achievements were very impressive even now, let alone 10 years ago. They exclaimed and asked me why I had been out of the workforce for so long. They laughed that if I had jumped ship and started my own business earlier, I would probably be a benchmark in the industry today. I laughed and drank to brush it off. Halfway through the meal, Ethan suddenly came. He stood in front of me, not saying anything, just looking at me. Because they were all people in the same industry, my colleagues quickly recognized Ethan. Isn't that Mr. Ethan who had an accident before? I heard that his studio went bankrupt and he now owes a lot of debts. The colleagues' voices were not very loud, but Ethan heard them. I didn't want him to do anything drastic, so I found an excuse and told my colleagues that I was going home first. Ethan followed me out. 29, something wrong? The alcohol that had just gone to my head was blown away by the wind on the road. I realized that Ethan, next to me, was in very bad shape. His clothes were dirty, and his eyes were bruised. He started talking to me about his experiences over the past month. He was rambling, and I didn't understand much. I only knew that this time the studio was experiencing budget problems and couldn't continue to operate. So, I finally stopped and looked at the haggard Ethan in front of me. He didn't answer me. He told me to wait there. 10 minutes later, I saw him come over with a box of things. Inside, there was a neat stack of documents. Ashley, all the property certificates of the house are here. Let's get a divorce. He put down the box and raised his hand, wanting to hug me again. I subconsciously dodged away. In the end, he didn't say anything more and left in silence. A month later, I met him at the town hall. We successfully obtained our divorce certificate. When dividing the property, he said he would give me everything. But I didn't want it. I only took what belonged to me. It was said that the rest was just enough for him to pay off the debts of the studio. This was the last kindness I could give him. 30. When we parted, I wanted to ask him if he had ever regretted it. But in the end, I didn't ask. But Ethan asked. He said, if we could do it all over again, would you still be willing? I didn't wait for him to finish asking and answered him. No, I wouldn't. I had lost too much. But fortunately, I still dared to move on. And he didn't deserve to appear in my life again. What happened to Ethan was no longer related to me. My life ahead would be glorious.